Greetings, everyone. This is the Cosmic Consciousness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel Sage. And today I am absolutely delighted to have a former colleague from Community College of Aurora, Rich Italiano. And Rich, we can even talk about this as time goes on, but I can't remember exactly how we first met. I know that we had a common connection with our dearly beloved, just departed Wayne Gilbert.
Yes,
But
yes.
when we got together at Wayne's memorial just a week or two ago, I knew when you had said that you had watched the podcast with Wayne, I knew that I wanted to have you on board, have a little chat with you about that. So I'm going to read your bio, and then we're just going to launch into a conversation about all
Sounds
things Rich Italiano. How's that sound?
sounds excellent.
Okay. Rich Italiano is a passionate music director, pianist, and composer based in Denver, Colorado. For 36 years, he inspired students at the Community College of Aurora, teaching piano, composition, music theory, and music appreciation until his retirement in 2025, which must have just been a few months ago.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Beyond the classroom, Rich helped shape Denver's music scene as a programmer and music director for Teletoons, a groundbreaking alternative music video program on KBDI Channel 12 that ran from 1981 to 2002. Now semi retired, Rich continues to teach piano and explore new creative avenues. Rich's lifelong dedication to music and the arts reflects his deep love for creativity and innovation. So now is when we hear the applause in the background, right?
Exactly.
For how, and in fact, I have to tell you, I saw you had done a little bio connection with the city of Denver. And I don't know, how long ago was that?
That was about a year ago. A, a
Oh,
friend a friend of mine from Teletoons, she was a VJ, Heather Dalton. She works for many different things. Um, and she asked me to do a little vignette about why I love Denver. Yeah, and it was
yeah.
posted on the city of Denver, or the county of Denver, whatever it is.
Yeah, I
um,
think city and county of Denver. So anybody that wants to get a little more rich,
yeah,
uh, you know, dial up
they
the city and county of Denver, why I love Denver. So,
yeah, and I wrote recorded it at my piano in my own studio, and and it turned
well,
out.
this is a little off track from the guided questions, but I couldn't remember because I only saw it once. You took a little sojourn outside of Denver. Was
Yeah,
that New York or where was that?
well, actually, that was when I graduated from with my bachelor's degree in 1982. I moved to New York City, and my piano teacher at the University of Northern Colorado set me up with a teacher in New York City. I had auditioned for her. I got in, which was fantastic. And so I moved out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, another question that isn't, I mean, it's sort of like the first question that I wanted
Yeah.
to have you think about. My wife started playing the piano. We have a little baby grand in the front. So I've always,
Uh-huh.
in fact, that's one of the first things that I fell in love with her about. We were at this Peace Corps kind of training thing, and she and I were in the same study group. Man, this lady or the young lady is so cool and she plays the piano. I think she started playing when she was in like a third grade or something like that. But when did you first?
Well, it's same thing in third grade.
Yeah,
Yes. So, if your parents are really serious about you starting the piano, you might start at 4 or 5.
yeah.
Um, yeah. I don't know if you
So
wanted
why the piano and not some other interest
my dad
instrument?
played the piano. my dad and we had a piano in the house. I have four brothers, and I'm the fourth of the five boys. And the three older boys all got piano lessons when they were, what, 6, 7. And my parents, probably overwhelmed with all the boys, didn't sign me up for piano lessons. And in the third grade, I was with the DPS, Denver Public Schools, Columbian Elementary in North Denver. Um, they would take students out and put them in a piano class. And they did that with me. And the piano instructor immediately called my parents and said, "You've got to get this boy into lessons, one on one lessons. You got something here." So that's why.
Were you were a little more advanced than your older brothers, or you showed some prodigy
Yeah.
uh, tendencies that were not there for your other siblings?
Let's just say they all dropped out and
Oh,
I excelled.
yeah, yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I know we're going to come back and cycle through some of those
Yeah.
influences you had, but what was your first recollection, first memories you have of, wow, music lights me up, really plugs me in? Was it when you were doing piano, or I know you've
Yeah.
talked about.
My dad played the piano since he was a young boy. And he would improvise a lot. He did read some music, but he just loved to play the I don't know, a lot of Sinatra and things like that. Uh, and so I think that got me going with that.
So, was Sinatra something that you were interested in, or was it just kind of there because your dad did
Well,
it?
absolutely not. And it was it was a part of the environment that I grew up in. And in most Italian households, everything was about Frank Sinatra.
Yeah. So, what was the first set, or maybe one signature experience you had that just kind of rushed upon you as a musical influence?
Now, would you say just music or the piano itself?
Oh no, I mean anything, piano,
Uh,
yeah, wide open.
so, like I said, I had four brothers, and I was the fourth. The older boys, especially the two older boys, were Beatles fanatics, and and then us three younger boys just followed suit, and so it was the Beatles, really. You know, it was especially Abbey Road, because that had just come out. Yes, I was born in 1960, so that just should tell you something there. And we like it was the latter Beatles albums, from the White Album, and then I bought my own copy of Sergeant Pepper, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band. Yeah, and I remember vividly going with my allowance money to Kmart and buying the album. Yeah.
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 Well,
So
see, I'm just a little bit ahead of you on the curve, but I remember, of course, the Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
right.
And,
Right.
people that did not live through that, like your older brothers or you,
Uh-huh.
do not really understand the earth groundbreaking influence of the Beatles. I
Yeah.
still maintain that every band, whether they have listened to the Beatles or not, every band wants to be the Beatles.
Right. Yeah.
And now, I don't know if you ever saw the documentary about Laurel Canyon. It was on like Paramount or something like
Oh, I
that.
did. I did see
Yeah.
that.
Well, did you see that part where you could drive up and down Laurel Canyon and you could hear Sergeant Pepper's playing all the way up? all the way down out of all of the homes. I mean, that's how. I mean, and I remember Mark Lindsay, who was the head of Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Uh-huh.
After Sergeant Pepper came out, and even when they did Strawberry Fields Forever, and I'm not going to use his exact words. I'm going to change it just a little. I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit. He said,
Yeah.
"What the heck do we do now?" So
That
that,
is completely
yeah, they
right.
were just so far ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
Um, so what I just got the Beatles influence going on. Your brothers are listening to that. Are there things that you would just listen to over and over, not just with the Beatles, but with anything that was coming out during that period?
Um, wow, that's a good question. I remember, so I was 7 or 8. I remember when I was 10, John Lennon came out with Instant Karma, and that was a song that really I kind of felt like it was my own. And so I really tapped into the whole Lennon aesthetic with the Yoko Ono band and all of that. And he had these hand claps that are in the song, and that's um, from this to this day, any song that has hand claps just brings joy. Shall we say sparks joy? Yeah,
It's those subtleties, and what I have on Sirius XM radio is the Beatles channel, and
yeah.
especially when my wife and I are taking long road trips, we'll listen to that all the time. And a lot of people think, for instance, like Ringo maybe wasn't that great of a drummer, but when you listen to all of these other drummers, even from current bands, he was the mentor. I
Yeah,
mean,
he
they
was.
Yeah, and so these subtle things like hand claps were, game changers.
Yeah. Just they brought a new sonic effect to it.
Yeah.
And regarding Ringo, that's really kind of turned around now. He was a great drummer.
Okay,
He
so
is.
here's a trivia question, and you probably know this just by, process of elimination. We know one of the members was left-handed.
Uh-huh.
There was another member of the Beatles who was left-handed. Do you know who that was?
I don't.
It was Ringo.
Oh,
And one of the reasons his fills were so iconic and people tried to copy them but couldn't really copy them is because he was using his dominant left hand to do it.
ah,
And that's one of the reasons he held the drumsticks straight up like that instead of the classic. He
yeah.
So Paul and Ringo were both left-handed.
Huh,
Yeah.
that's
So
some good trivia.
that changed a lot. Is there something that from the Abbey Road album or Magical Mystery Tour or Sergeant Pepper or something like that that is particularly favorite for you?
Well, I take it back to Sergeant Pepper's, and that is the last song, "A Day in the Life," and just the whole. It was a medley, a masterful, you know,
Yeah,
that they all participated in, and then the last note. There's that storied um, um, thing of where they got the effect of everybody playing that last note. Just I don't know how many people played that last note to get the effect of it. Maybe I'm making that up, but
no,
there
you're
was
not.
there was something that went on with that.
Yeah, and I think it was like 39. I'm just guessing here, but I know it was multiple grand pianos all hitting that last chord at the same time, and it plays out for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now, here's another trivia question. Which of the Beatles did not know how to read music?
Um, Could it be John Lennon?
None of them knew how to read music.
Oh, not.
Isn't
Okay,
that crazy?
yeah. 'Ca That's crazy because I have um, Paul McCartney's Mass that he wrote for voices and orchestra. Yeah, but I think somebody helped him out with that one.
Yeah. Well, and I maybe they became capable of reading music after, all the years, but I remember hearing them talk about even when somebody from a different part of Liverpool had kind of played a new chord or something like that, they would get on the bus and travel all the way across town to learn how to play that new chord. So, and that, of course, with guitars, but yeah,
Dude,
I don't want to get too much into the Beatles here because that's right in my wheelhouse. But
right,
yeah,
right. Because I'm all about the anti-Beatles too.
yeah.
That
Like,
comes.
okay, so say more about that.
So my um, world of music evolved from the Beatles to um, classical music, and then from classical music, when I hit my, say, the late teens, I'm even 19, 20. I kept my classical, but really got into punk rock, new wave, industrial, electronic music, minimalism, and you know, so many different things at that point.
Yeah, I always think of the Beatles as our Mozart,
Yeah.
but after Mozart, there were some not I wouldn't say anti-Mozart, but even during the classical period, wasn't there a little bit of, I wouldn't say pushback, but resistance or something like that to some of those particular trends?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you know more about it than I do, so can you say something about what
So
that was?
we all know that of J.S. Bach is the master, and I he is one of my favorites. But his sons felt that their father was an old fuddy duddy, and they ventured on into some different styles, the newly emerging styles. So yes, that did go on.
Yeah.
There
Well,
was a
for every thesis, there is an antithesis.
yeah, right. There was a major backlash to Beethoven in the Romantic period, especially by the Russians. So
But for the anti-Beatles stuff, one of the first things I think of when I think of you and our connection at CCA, Community College of Aurora,
uh-huh.
Skinny Puppy.
Oh, okay. Yes, I can talk about them. Should I talk about them?
Yes,
Okay. Um, so Skinny Puppy emerged from Vancouver. They're Canadian. Um, and their first album, all of a sudden I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry, Skinny Puppy. But anyway, their single was called Far Too Frail. And yeah, they really hit the dark side um, early on when there was all this new wave, happier music going on. And they wore these demonic or dark costumes when they came out on stage. And their main electronic guy, Kevin Key, he really um, delved into, I would say, it was just hallucinating electronics. Dark, dark. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully I didn't say too much.
well, I don't know that this is anti-Beatle, but I remember a couple of, besides, the early groundbreaking stuff that the Beatles were doing. Um, Listening back to back to back almost all the time in free time, Revolver album and
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? And my trivia question to everybody always is, Okay, who is the second best rock guitarist of all time? Because to me, Jimi Hendrix is, and he was doing stuff on that album, the third rock from the sun or third planet from the sun, whatever that
Yeah,
name of that tune was. That is, if he was still alive, he would be doing music nobody could understand, I don't think.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of what I think Dizzy Gillespie said to Miles Davis at one point. He said, "Sometime you're going to have to explain to me what you're doing." Now, that's one thing that I could not. I share an appreciation of jazz,
Uh-huh.
but Wayne was really a jazz lover,
That was his
aficionado.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any feelings about jazz one way or the other? You ever connect with jazz?
I went I at University of Northern Colorado. It was one of the top jazz schools in the US. Um, yeah, I was led by Gene Aiken. He was a kind of a legend. But I never got into that. I was just strictly classical music or avant-garde classical music or my rock music turning into, punk and that sort of thing. So,
I just simply have to have some good plant killing music every once in a
yeah,
while.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first concert was Paul McCartney, McNichols Arena, 1976. I was 16.
Do you
Yeah.
remember the big tunes that he was famous for doing then?
Yeah, Live and Let Die. It was the album, something to the speed of sound. I don't know all his album titles, but yeah, Silly Love Song was one of the big ones with him. But he did a lot of Beatles tunes. He opened up with Live and Let Die, um, and he did a lot from Venus and Mars, that album, Magneto and Titanium Man. And
So it can be from either that period or any time. What are some of the big live performances, concerts that would be considered some of your favorites?
well, they would come later in my life. One was The Cure, and I saw them last summer or 2 summers ago at Fiddler's Green, and that was just a an incredible concert. The band, yeah, and I've seen them a number of times. All their shows are have been outstanding.
You prefer live performances?
Um, I equally like recorded performances, especially the magic of the studio, what that can do. So, in fact, more so, I prefer recordings, just because there's a lot of magic that the studio can do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, in fact, I don't want to keep referring back to the Beatles, but that was a huge game changer as well when they decided to
you're
quit
right.
touring and they just experimented in the studio. I think some of the first real experiments were in the Rubber Soul album, and then of course all that stuff on
Yeah,
Revolver.
Revolver. Yeah,
Yeah, and then Sergeant Pepper was after that, and
yeah,
man, that yeah, all sorts of Day in the Life is still when you listen to the Beatles channel on Sirius XM, usually around holidays, they're doing, okay, top 100.
uh
And
huh,
A Day in the Life almost always wins, but then they try to change it around a little bit to put different categories on it. But yeah, that was the kind of stuff they were doing in studio.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They could not duplicate that on stage. I don't think,
Yeah.
unless they had recordings behind their performance. Yeah. So I was going to say about punk rock, and a Beatles backlash. The Clash. Are you familiar? You're familiar with the Clash. Their album London Calling. In that song London Calling, they have a line in the music where it says "Phony Beatle mania has bitten the dust. Yeah, so that they were back. That was a backlash there.
Yeah. How long did that last with, I mean, not just with punk, but with any of the Beatles backlash kind of stuff that you can remember or have sense
Well,
about?
it seems to me punk rock did there was a backlash, especially the overproduced or these musicians who were amazing. Um, Punk rock was about playing two or three chords and keeping it simple. That didn't last too long because then new wave and post punk emerged after that, and they started to embrace the Beatles. You hear a lot of Beatles influence in the music, especially of course, the British music.
Yeah, British invasion.
Yeah,
You have it much, affection or affinity for, like, the Rolling Stones or any of the other British invasion bands?
you know, I say I grew up with them. We there were only two radio stations growing up, and they played everything, including a lot of Rolling Stones. So yes, we love the Stones too,
So
and the Who.
you Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, oh, man, I'm just spacing out on the n name of the band. It'll come back to me that one of my favorites, was, The Kinks.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah,
they are considered proto punk in a way.
yeah,
They kind of ushered it in.
yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is Helter Skelter
Uh huh.
was maybe one of the first sorta heavy metal punkish types of tunes and the Beatles did that.
Correct. You're
Yeah,
right. Absolutely right.
yeah. Yeah, this so the White Album. Uh,
Yeah.
so, okay, you've mentioned your dad being
Yeah.
a pianist. What other kinds of things in your formative years were coming up that kept you on track as opposed to your brothers just, maybe they found girls or, sports or something else, but you stayed on track with music?
Yeah. Um, I just love to mess around with the piano and play and take lessons and practice. Um, I had a little organ just on a stand, and I love to make up tunes with that. We'd have plays in the house, and I would accompany the production with that. It was kind of sweet. I'll just put it that way. And I think I had mentioned to you earlier that I was influenced by Schroeder on Charlie Brown, Peanuts,
Mhm, mhm.
and his love for Beethoven. And I remember one episode of Peanuts. Schroeder played this piece by Beethoven. It was the Adagio from the Patati Patati Sonata, and my dad had played that, at least part of it, and so I knew he had the music. So I went through all his music, dug it out, and brought it to my piano teacher, and she said, "You'll be able to play this someday, but not today." So, but that's kind of where my determination came to become the best I could be.
You took that as a challenge.
I did.
Yeah. So how long before you were able to play it? After she said, "Not yet."
So if that was roughly 11, 10, 11, I would say about 4 years later. Yeah, 5 years
So,
later.
we don't talk about this a whole lot either, but, my wife used to sing in the Colorado Symphony Choir for a period
Oh,
of
wow.
time,
Yeah.
and, we currently have our daughter was in the road show, as it came through for Showboat when she was 8 years old.
Uh
So
huh.
Cloris Leachman was her grandma, and there's, stage grandma, Lynn
Yeah.
Carreyrou. Kevin Gray, who kind of put um, Phantom of the Opera on the map in on Broadway, what was her dad. It was a complete accident that she was the child lead in this. So we have season tickets to the Buell. My wife has always been a little bit of a Broadway musical kind of a fan. I sort of, it's great. And there are some shows that are just outstanding. So I would prefer, however, to have tickets to the symphony, which seems a little passe for some folks. But
Right.
you've got the kind of influence like the Beatles provided from the rock side. You've got this classical bloodstream flowing through you. What talk about that a little bit? How that happened?
Um, I I mean, how did I get into classical to love that? I think through my piano teachers, um, early on in, when I was 10, 11, 12, and then when I turned 15, my mother, saw an ad in the newspaper that the Denver Symphony Orchestra pianist was losing a student. Her student had just gotten accepted to Oberlin College and would be leaving her studio. I don't know why that was in the paper, but my mom was thinking, well, she's losing a student. Maybe Richie or Rich can take her place. So she had me audition for her name is Kathleen Joyner. Yeah. And I got in. And that's really when my whole life was about the piano from that point. Because she gave me these serious pieces, Beethoven sonatas, Chopin etudes, the music of J.S. Bach, um, and Aaron Copland. She knew everything, and she kind of set my life on a path, which led me to the University of Northern Colorado. She insisted I go there and not the University of Colorado. She felt UNC was the better choice. Um, and then from UNC, then I would go and study even more seriously, even not that I wasn't serious, but more intensely in New York City.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
One of my wife's favorite performers is Billy Joel.
Uh huh.
And, in all those little education workshops, when you're given that little teaser question, kind of just mixing to get everybody familiar with each other. If you were stranded on a desert island, um, who would you want to be stranded with and what would you take with you? And almost before the prompt is done, my wife says, "Oh, Billy Joel on a grand piano."
Yeah.
And Billy Joel left rock for a while to try to, because he was, he cut his musical teeth on classical music as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we even tried to compose some classical stuff on his own while he took a little respite from. Did you, were both of those companions for you, or did you need to feel like you needed to take a time out from one in order to become more immersed in the other?
They were side by side, um, and still are to this day.
Yeah. How does that work for you with people who are, oh, classical? Or do you get any, looks of disdain about classical from the rock people, or, from the classical people, disdain about rock, or are they pretty much
I
on board?
I find the classical people are kind of intrigued and um, like wondering what they've missed out on. I get that, or I will bring them on board with me. With like he used to make these mixtapes in the '80s, and I would, make recordings and just give them out. Yeah, with all this interesting different music. So, and then I think people in the rock world just find that that's who I am. really.
Yeah. Well, to me, there are some classical pieces that resonate with rock,
Right.
that you can rock out to classical music.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So you've mentioned your, piano teacher she was with the Denver Symphony?
Yeah.
Yeah, you wanna talk about her a little bit?
Like I said, she was very serious, and gave me some serious music to work on that would make me the best pianist. And I remember I went to Kennedy High School when I was in the 10th grade. I played for these violinists, and the music director was semi impressed with what I was doing. But after I had had 2 years with Kathleen Joyner, I came back and was playing these Chopin etudes and all sorts of things. And he was kind of blown away. Yeah, he even put me on a showcase to showcase the talents of of the high school when I graduated.
I have always thought of you as kind of this unassuming, modest person. Has that pretty much been your presentation and posture in life? I mean, you're
It did.
getting all this heady, complimentary stuff around you, but you just feel like, "Oh, no, this is what I do. This is who I am?"
Yeah, I do. I think because I was the fourth child. There, I think there's something about the placement of where I was among the boys, and I think I was always maybe a little shy, maybe painfully shy, and I'm just glad that I am able to express myself. That's all. It was a lot.
So, okay, you got your, piano teacher. And I think we've exchanged some ideas about Loretto Heights, some experiences you had there, but who else, okay, you could talk about your mother, your parents, your dad, your piano teacher. Who else would you say, as you've intersected with, that have been, seminal for you?
Yeah. So what I do want to talk about Kathleen Joyner. She um, taught at Loretto Heights College, and so I took lessons from her there in high school, and and then from there I went to the University of Northern Colorado, and Kathleen got me set up with to take lessons with a guy named Daniel Graham, and he took me to the next level really, and really saw that the my potential with all of that, and he made a huge difference. And I think I mentioned that he had me study music in New York City with one of his mentors, Lillian Freundlich. And Lillian Freundlich and her husband both went to Juilliard, and Lillian also taught piano at the Peabody Conservatory. And Daniel Graham thought this would be a good, um, pathway for me, for Lillian to guide me. And she got me. We did the audition. It was a great audition. I at Peabody. I don't think I've ever played better, actually. Um, and I was accepted. So those three teachers were very big in my life.
So, why become a teacher rather than a performer? Or maybe you were doing both. I mean, did you see any confluence of those 2 things? How did that all develop for you?
But the I think you know I made a decision early that I wanted to be a teacher. I always felt that I had some limitations with my piano technique, that I wouldn't be like the best of the best. And I worked as hard as I could, but and I think I reached a high level. I did graduate from the Peabody Conservatory, but I always felt there was something holding me back with my hands. I just couldn't explain. And if we talk about multiple sclerosis, that explains a lot right there.
Yeah. Were you having, I mean, in retrospect, do you think you were having uh, symptoms of MS even in
Oh,
those years?
yeah. So I was diagnosed in when I was 48, but I had symptoms even way back when I was 18, 19, 20. Just just things that w- were holding me back.
Yeah. Is that, here you are, this considered by your teachers to be like a prodigy, but you knew inside, or you felt inside, that you wanted to be a teacher instead of a performer.
Right.
And that,
Even though I did perform a lot, but I knew that teaching was going to be a big part of it. Yeah, of my life.
yeah,
And then I had this, as I say, this love of rock music, which led me to another part of my professional life.
um, you feel like you were fulfilled in teaching in a way that, I guess the question I want to ask is, do you feel like you were uh, cheated is the wrong word, but
No,
prevented from actually being the kind of performer you wanted to be? Did you feel regret about that, or was there any sorrow about it, or you knew kind of in your heart of hearts that you wanted to be teaching anyway?
yeah, I knew I wanted to be teaching anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, um, I don't know how to put it. So the performing life, especially on a high level, um, takes a lot of nerve. And I don't know if I had. Everyone has stage fright, that sort of thing. But I went through quite a bit with just the anxiety of performing. So I had that going for me too. But I don't know any performer who doesn't.
Yeah.
So I am not unique in that.
So why? Maybe I've never even asked you this, but did you teach someplace before CCA, Community College of Aurora?
I had a private studio at Gillespie Music on Broadway. I just love teaching. I mean, I just it was just like a lightning rod. It was my calling.
Yeah.
I
So
still
then,
feel that
what
way.
led you to CCA?
Yeah, when I was at Scholastic Music, Tom Brosh owned the the practice studios or the teaching studios, and we really hit it off. He just said, "Someday I'm going to have you teaching at CCA once a position opens up for you." And really, 2 years later, I was a regular on the staff. Yeah.
Well,
So that was
and of course, we saw Tom at Wayne's Memorial.
right. So that
Yeah.
was 1989 that I started CCA. Lasted 36 years. Yeah.
You stay in touch with Tom?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Yeah. CCA had a celebration for my retirement, and Tom was there. Yeah.
So when did Tom retire from CCA?
2005. So many years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so any other people that we haven't talked about that were, keys for you moving along, maybe even helping you decide, even though you knew in your heart of hearts you want to be a teacher rather than a performer, that you had conversations with about that kind of, divergence in the past rather than being a performer? Because I'm sure you probably had some of your own teachers that said, "No, no, no, you're good enough to be a performer. This should be a path you pursue." Or did you feel any influence one direction or the other by any of those people in your life?
Well, once my symptoms of MS started to come up, I just kind of felt that was kind of it. But I don't know. Um, it was really a zigzag sort of thing going on here. Um, when I graduated with my master's degree from Peabody, I did a solo recital in Denver that went really well, and I did a number of I did a lecture recital and all this, but then my hand really started to at one point was almost paralyzed. So I kind of gave up on that. So I kind of just performed for myself. Does that kind of answer a bit?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you was that before your diagnosis when you realized you're having
Yeah,
trouble with?
it was before. It was
Yeah.
10 years before.
So then how did you come across the sense that you needed to get diagnosed? You're having trouble with your, did you see a
Yeah.
doctor? And
I had a bicycle accident up in Aspen where I just kind of lost my whole sense of space. And I crashed and I shattered my elbow, my left arm. And that was one straw that really changed everything. I broke the radial head in my elbow, and it completely kind of fused my arm to where it cannot move out. So that was 2007. 2008, my hand went completely paralyzed. I mean, I couldn't do anything with it. It just kind of hung there. And they thought that I had a brain tumor, a doctor. And actually, I had a whole panel of doctors. And one of the other doctors said, "No, I think he has MS." So they tested for MS. They were going to do a brain biopsy, which could have been damaged my brain. Um, and the results for MS came back, and they said, "No, do not touch his brain. He has a huge lesion on his brain." Um, I don't. Do you know how MS works?
not much. You might want to talk about that.
Yeah,
And
it the name means multiple scars, and so your body attacks the myelin sheath along your nervous system, and it cuts off communication. And so I have this huge lesion right here. It's of course still there, but it affects the left side. So right, left. You know how that? Yeah. So that's what went on there.
so you're having these troubling symptoms. Then you get the diagnosis. So, I mean, this is going to be, what's wrong with me? And then you get the diagnosis. That had to have been a pretty emotional, psychological blow.
Yeah. No, it was a relief, and most MS patients will tell you that it's like finally I have an answer and I can do something about it, or kind of.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
how do you on the spectrum where you have, okay, 10 is the worst, one is, pretty functional. I mean, I've talked about my stroke.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much asymptomatic. You still have symptoms on a scale of 1 to 10. About where are you?
Well, the the way that I have relapse remitting, which is the lesser of the three um, types of MS. Um, the damage has been done. They cannot undo the damage, um, but they can prevent from it progressing further. So I have not had any progress to the disease since probably 2008.
Yeah.
But like I say, I live with the symptoms or the condition that I was left with, way back when, which is a lot of dizziness, um, tingling my hands, and I have to be careful of extreme heat and cold. And it just I don't know. I walk with a cane right now, which really helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you've got significant limitations to be
right.
able to play the piano.
That's right. Uh-huh.
Yeah. But do you
Every
still play?
I do, but it's sometimes disheartening. Because I feel like every time I sit down to play, I'm really starting from square one every day. So, but I have learned to deal with that. Yeah.
Who's your who you got a support system, not just medical support, but people who help you emotionally and psychologically and all of that like for instance, when I was uh, had my psychotherapy practice, um, and I was a licensed addiction counselor. I'd have people
Wow.
that were medically, I mean, court ordered to come and see me, and they could not get their medication unless they came and talked to me. And I said, well, you're not coming to me unless you go to a support group like AA or Narcanon or whatever, Al-Anon.
Yeah.
You've got to be a part of it. Is there something like that for you?
Well,
A
when I was
support group?
diagnosed, oh, sorry. When I was diagnosed, the insurance company insisted I go through six psych, not psychotherapy. I guess it was psychotherapy sessions, and so I did, um, and I came out being the therapist. She was very pleased how well adjusted I was, considering. Yeah,
Yeah. And then you have physical therapy. I mean, all of that
I
wrapped
had all
together.
I had some of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I find the best therapy for me is swimming, hands down. Swimming laps. That really does.
Yeah.
It, it's great for my balance. Just everything about my MS.
Yeah. So I'm sure there are MS support groups, and like when I connected with a stroke support group, and I found this just isn't for me.
Yeah,
I understand why some people need it. You have any of that kind of experience?
I've 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 gone to some of those things, and I'm going to be very candid here. I found it very depressing. I'd rather do my own journaling and my own thing, and not do that.
What how so given those kind of limitations, knowing what you have to deal with, not being able to, you know, play the piano the way you want to, what how do you continue to explore your musical artistic interests?
Yeah. Uh, um, well, I love reading about music and researching about music, and I also teach the piano still, so that really nurtures me. Um, do that, and again, I'm still very interested in rock music, equally to classical music. I go to a lot of concerts, tons of concerts, classical and otherwise. Like I told you, I'm going to a concert tonight.
Yeah. So your retirement or semi-retirement income supports the cost of these concerts?
It does.
Yeah, yeah. So how many students do you have?
20.
Yeah, and you wanna keep it at about that level?
Yeah, that's good.
Manageable. And, if I remember right, lessons for me when I was taking and I never really caught on to it, I became a drummer rather than a pianist. But, the how long are your how long is a lesson for one of your students?
um, I do half hour, 45 minute, and also an hour
Yeah. So,
per lesson.
you do you find that that energizes you? Does it wear you out? How's your energy?
Oh, it energizes me. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Keeps you going. It gives you purpose and meaning and all of those things. Yeah.
it does.
Yeah. So when do you have some okay, everybody's got to have low points, especially if you got MS. Um
Right,
yeah,
right.
who do you turn to, you know, musically or spiritually or personally, for, you know, some edification? It's things that keep you centered and grounded.
Yeah, that is a good question, and I um, am trying to answer that. Um, I so this I was going to show you a book. See, I came prepared. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know if it's backward or not.
Okay. Tell me the title.
Oh, it's called "The Way Forward"
Okay.
by Young Pueblo. Yeah, and just has a lot of very good, just kind of inspiring words about everything. And it doesn't feel like self help. It just feels like more meditation and I don't know, getting to the root of the soul, you know, of nurturing the soul.
You know, that's used as a term to describe a genre of music, soul music,
Yeah.
but um, there is soul in every music, every form of creativity. And so I think that's what I mean, I don't know anybody that doesn't find some meaning, spirit, grounding in some form of music. I mean, the only form of music that I can honestly say I can't really appreciate or understand or listen to is country western. Now there are
Right.
versions like country rock or something like that. I can, you know, that's palatable to me. But
Yeah.
even with fans of country western, my father-in-law was a big country western fan, and it takes you to a different place.
Well,
Takes
that,
you, yeah.
yeah.
So what are the places you go? Like for instance, the concert you're going to tonight. What
I'm going to see Sigur Rós. They're from Iceland. Their music is a bit ethereal, but progressive, electronic, and also acoustic instruments as well. So they just have a lot of different things going on. I would say otherworldly like that. Yeah.
so are do you create music?
Oh yeah. Uh huh. I do. I have compositions that I've composed, and I like to mess around on the piano a bit, even though I'm limited a bit these days. Um, I also have a. I love to do electronic music. I've done. I have my M1 synthesizer in the basement that I can do some things with. Um, and hopefully in the future, I'm going to be working with one of my colleagues from CCA. We're going to do some work with Logic on the laptop. Yeah.
That affords all the new technology affords you incredible latitude to do just about whatever you want to
Right.
do or need to do. Yeah, yeah.
So
So, I'm
oh,
sorry.
I'd say at Peabody Conservatory, um, which is a brilliant place for any musician to attend. They have one of the first electronic music studios in the world, really. I know there's Earcom, and then Columbia University has had one, but Peabody also, and they had modular synths there. You know, the early Moog, all of that, and I took 2 years of work in the electronic music studio at Peabody. That was life changing. I, I did two kind of big compositions there um, that represented the studio, and they were all very pleased at the college. But yeah, that was incredible. Yeah.
The next thing seems to be AI.
Right. That's kind of scary.
What do you see happening? I mean, it's impossible to predict, but what you said it's scary. That to me means there's a big um, gap and maybe some negatives
Yeah.
that are attached to AI.
I know. Well, s- You know, I go to the gym, I go swimming, and they have this music piped in, and a lot of it's AI. It sounds familiar, and it sounds like you know it, but it was created by AI. Not all of it, but some of it. Yeah, so, um, I'm not gonna be an old fuddy-duddy, but, it's just something that we have to deal with.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember, at Community College of Aurora, the last year I was teaching there, many of the papers that would come in from the students were written by AI, and I was thinking, "How are we gonna deal with this?" I don't know,
How could you tell it was AI?
because there was no personality, and it
Yeah.
was so well written. Um, if they were writing about a concert that they attended, it was mainly just a flourish of these adjectives that would describe the concert, but they wouldn't mention what they heard, and there would be no personal connection.
One of the, my last teaching episodes while I was doing my psychotherapy practice was at Regis Jesuit High School. And all the students, and it was just on the boys division,
Uh-huh.
boys side. I had a, I had no interest in going back to teach.
Yeah.
I had a buddy that was an assistant principal on the boys side, and he talked me into coming over there, and it really was a terrific experience. I'm proud to say that 2 out of the 5 years that I was there, the boys voted me Teacher of the Year. So that was pretty cool. So I've got that hanging at my home office, right next to my Teacher of the Year, Faculty of the Year from 1993 at CCA. So,
Oh,
but
I won that too
good. What
in
year?
2005.
Terrific. Hey, we're all in the same club here.
Right.
No, that's terrific. Well, one of the things that I did, because they all had to purchase and have iPads, and I would assign these projects and this, that, and the other, I would require them to enter like a journal or weekly thing, handwritten.
Yeah,
And even if they were doing a project, they could screenshot their handwritten notes and project that along with whatever they wanted to supplement with for images. That was kind of my way of getting around that, concern about AI and technology, cheating and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So, yeah. What kind of music that you're creating, does it tend to be rock? Does it tend to be classical?
Oh, it's all, kind of experimental, classical side, yeah.
Yeah,
It's funny, with all my love of rock music, I've never felt the desire to create rock music.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
that would kind of be one of my last little questions here would be, um, your default go-to for not just creativity, but just to kinda decompress or, you know, find your, center of balance and all that. Do you have a tendency to be more rock or more classical?
Well, many things come back to the piano, and at least right now, and I've been playing this piece since last December. It's a prelude and fugue by J.S. Bach. It's from the Well Tempered Clavier. Um, it's the one in A minor, and I play that every day. And it is said that practicing quiets the mind, and I certainly believe that. So yes, if I have to do one thing, it's sitting down at the piano and playing something like Bach or Schumann or Chopin, even if it's not perfect, even if I can't quite reach the chords or I have to adjust the music some way, um, that's what I do.
Yeah. I had a, graduate school professor that said your scripture is what you read every day, what you read and reread. So that's your musical scripture.
Right.
Yeah, that's your inspiration. I mentioned before we started the recording that we watch or listen to a podcast, Countdown with Keith Olbermann, and when
Uh
he
huh.
does his worst persons of the world, it's Bach's what is it, Toccata in and fugue in D minor.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Da-da-da.
yes, yes, and he plays quite a bit of that. So I begin to think, and of course, then he always starts with that old classic uh, Huntley Brinkley Beethoven piece. So I think he's got a little bit of that classical uh,
Yeah.
inclination.
Is it from the Ninth Symphony? It goes da
Yes,
da da.
yes,
Yeah.
from
The
the
scare.
ninth.
Yeah, from the Ninth Symphony.
Now, one of the other questions I wanted to ask you, and I have a specific point of reference for this.
Uh huh.
Well, when we have gone to the symphony, my wife has always heard music in colors, and she sees the music notes floating
Really?
around in colors.
Yeah.
Not always, but significant times. The Camerina Burana was the last one that I remember her talking about having this synesthesia kind of
Right.
experience. Yeah. Is that what happens for you when you're doing your musical scripture? You get a peace of mind, or there is something kind of mystical and magical that happens at a concert, or what point of reference you have for any of that?
So I've never had synesthesia. Um, I mean, I've never seen, um, color. I know that they don't call getting goosebumps a synesthesia because that is something completely different. But, um, when I hear music, I could say, yes, there is something like dark green or blue or something like that, that I could kind of create that in my mind, but I don't physically actually see it. Um, there is something about low sounds, harmonies, minor sounds, um, repetitive sounds that really quiet me that I love. Yeah. With music. Does that kind of address?
Yeah.
I was, because I love minimalist music. I was thinking of the music of Steve Reich and Philip Glass and John Adams and others in that way. They create some they experiencing their music has created a quote unquote religious experience for me.
Yeah, the religious spiritual experience
Yeah.
has to be, I would guess, something that you do not use headphones for. It has to be kind of an immersive experience. That's my guess.
Yeah. I'm not a big headphones guy for listening to music because I like the outer world to affect what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. I've always contended, and this comes from several scientific, spiritual, scientific answers. In fact, my master's um, thesis was on this intersection between science and kind of the ancient mystic masters, science and religion,
Uh-huh.
and that science is really just discovering what the ancient masters have always kind of known, and that is that we're energy beings, we're spiritual beings, and so we operate at certain frequencies. There's
Yes.
vibrational levels that resonate through us, in us, around us. And the best example is music.
Yeah, it is. Um I think at one point you mentioned the movie Koyaanisqatsi. Or have you seen Philip Glass's Koyaanisqatsi, the movie?
No.
Or are you oh, you have not. Okay. Okay. Well, it opens with this very low chant, Koyaanisqatsi, like that. And that just gets to me like that. That listen to that sometime, watch the movie, um, it'll get to you.
Yeah. Mine was, and I can't even remember the composer, but when I was in graduate school, in fact, what inspired me to do my master's thesis was Carl Sagan's The Dragons of Eden. And I don't remember much about that little book. He won a Pulitzer for it. But what lit me up was that cosmic calendar that he had, which gets repeated. And almost, I could repeat this in the latest movie, The Life of Chuck, when one of the, yeah, have you seen The Life of Chuck?
I think I have.
Yeah. It's a Stephen King movie, for crying out loud, but it is really deep, profound. And that cosmic calendar, um, then, of course, Carl Sagan on PBS does Cosmos. And
Right.
that music at the beginning of those broadcasts got me, always got me. But do you remember who the composer, what that music is?
For some reason I cannot remember. Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Yeah. This would have been in the late 70s, early 80s when, Carl Sagan was showing up on Johnny Carson on Tonight Show on a regular basis. But, what really put him on the map was that PBS series, Cosmos. And they would
Right.
play that music at the beginning. In fact, I really wanted to embed that in the podcast, but I'm not much of a techie, so I couldn't figure it out. But um, I forget what the name of it is, but this is where we are energetically. And it seems to me that people like you play a major role in the healing that goes on, um, individual souls, with communities, with groups of, I mean, it's the Confucian thing, where, okay, if you want peace in the world, you better have peace in your state. If you want peace in the state, you better have peace in your community. If you want peace in the community, you better have peace in the family. If you want peace in the family, be at peace yourself. And this is what music does for us, I believe.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're in the enterprise of saving souls and bringing peace to the planet.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it may be necessary for us to do a second podcast sometime. Next time, I might not even uh, give you the cheat sheet of guided questions. so, Rich, hang on just for a minute. I'm going to sign us off, and then we'll stop the recording, and then hope maybe there's an opportunity, or if you know somebody that you think would be a good candidate to have these kinds of conversations, since you've seen a couple of the past podcasts, you'll be able to
Yeah, I'd
maybe.
like to do that. I want to tell you about the next podcast about the nightclubs of New York City.
Okay.
Yeah, and how they change lives.
Okay. Good. Good. Well, thank you, Rich, for being on this little journey with us. I
Yes.
appreciate your participation. This has been the Cosmic Consciousness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel Sage, and today our guest has been Rich Italiano. I appreciate it very much. So
Here.
until
Yeah.
next time, everybody, peace.